To be precise, this location is the junction point of the entire passage. Almost all of the branches are connected to this main path. Using an exit that appears at fixed times as bait to tire me out and irritate me, this person is truly boring. A cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. With his character, how could he be willing to be toyed with like this? At this moment, he was determined to break this trap with his own power. Wang Lin looked up at the mud layer above the passage. He slapped his storage pouch, and immediately the divine chariot shot out, transforming into the Thunder Beast. The Thunder Beast roared as it appeared, and without waiting for Wang Lin's command, it immediately coursed with electric energy, with massive amounts of lightning converging into the silver horn on its head. At that moment, the silver horn emitted a dazzling light, and the roar filled the air. The beast lunged upward, its body glowing with intense lightning, as if it were a sharp sword, its silver horn serving as the tip, heading straight for the mud layer of the passage. A thunderous explosion echoed throughout the passage, and a violent tremor suddenly spread out. Wang Lin, standing on the ground of the passage, immediately felt the strong shaking. This tremor quickly spread throughout the entire passage. The Thunder Beast was pushed back, the massive recoil force overwhelming it as it staggered back a few steps, its body trembling. However, its eyes were filled with battle intent and an unyielding spirit. At that moment, a phantom flickered behind Wang Lin, and the Immortal Guard puppet stepped out, glowing with golden light tinged with a hint of orange. As it rose, it threw a punch at the spot where the Thunder Beast's silver horn had struck earlier. Boom! It sounded like the heavens and earth were collapsing, and the massive sound was followed by violent tremors, echoing in all directions. The Immortal Guard puppet's body was tough, and it retracted its fist only to strike again. The continuous blows caused even more tremors, along with wild, powerful recoil forces. After 5 punches, the Immortal Guard puppet had to retreat, its golden glow dimming, its breath unstable. Wang Lin's gaze remained calm. The position he had chosen was no mistake. The moment the Immortal Guard puppet stepped back, Wang Lin slapped his storage pouch, and the immortal sword immediately flew out, containing the awakened sword spirit Su Ligua. With a howl and a string of curses from Su Ligua, the sword shot upward. The Thunder Beast, the puppet, and the immortal sword's successive attacks caused violent tremors throughout this fragment of the Thunder Immortal realm, especially in this passage, which became the epicenter of the tremor. All the connected passages began shaking as well. With a low growl, Wang Lin formed seals with his hands, and his immortal power surged. His essence spirit released thunder might, and bolts of lightning condensed in his hands. He flung them forward, and at the same time, the Thunder Beast roared, its silver horn leading the way as it charged forward with the lightning. The Immortal Guard puppet followed closely behind. The entire fragmented continent shook even more violently at that moment, and the passage began to collapse. The collapse of one passage triggered a chain reaction, causing all connected passages to collapse in an instant. The extent of the collapse spread, and large sections of the surrounding soil caved in. However, a thin thread of heaven and earth energy remained, interwoven throughout the area. These threads were densely packed, with few intercrossings, but whenever they did cross, a light gate appeared. Wang Lin's pupils contracted. He had not expected that the collapse of the passage would not only fail to dissipate the other party's divine abilities but would instead still leave them intact. But now, without the obstruction of the mud layer, it would be much easier for Wang Lin to leave through the exit that appeared every half hour. As the exit light gate appeared once more, Wang Lin's body flashed, moving as quickly as smoke, charging straight through. The Immortal Guard puppet and Thunder Beast followed closely behind. The instant he emerged, Wang Lin did not hesitate. He stepped into the void and let out a deep breath. What exactly is this person's goal? If he wanted to kill me, it wouldn't be difficult with these divine abilities and spells. If he wanted to trap me, he could also easily do so by simply removing the door. But now, why is he doing this? Wang Lin frowned as he glanced at the fine threads of energy that had formed the restriction on the ground. After pondering for a moment, Wang Lin put away the Thunder Beast and puppet. He couldn't figure it out, but seeing those energy threads on the ground sent a chill down his spine. As he pondered, he looked around and murmured to himself, "So this is the Thunder Immortal realm." For cultivators who have reached the second step, the Immortal Jade in the Thunder Immortal realm should be a dispensable item. After all, cultivators at the second step focus on primordial energy. This question had puzzled him ever since he learned about the role of primordial energy. Why would second step cultivators be so eager to come here? This doubt gradually became clearer after he met Shin Gonghu, who gave him some hints. Within the Thunder Immortal realm, aside from the immortal jade, there were also immortal pills and immortal treasures. Although people managed to find some every time the realm opened, there were still plenty to be found. As for whether it can be found, that depends on one's luck. There are even rumors that, within the Thunder Immortal realm, there exists a complete form of immortal arts. To this day, although people have found fragments of these arts, none have been whole. However, all cultivators within the Luotian star domain firmly believe that the complete immortal arts must be hidden here. Moreover, there is another key point. Within the Thunder Immortal realm, 8 perfectly preserved immortal corpses have been discovered so far. If anyone were to find another immortal corpse, even just a clue, and sell it to the Thunder Immortal Palace, they would be rewarded generously if the clue proves accurate. If someone were to obtain an immortal corpse on their own and hand it over to the Thunder Immortal Palace, the personal rewards would be unimaginable. Even their family would receive tremendous benefits. If the cultivator who obtains the immortal corpse possesses enough talent, they could even be taken as a disciple by one of the 10 great elders of the Thunder Immortal Palace. From then on, their future would be limitless, rising like the clouds. Aside from these, there is another reason that has truly stirred the hearts of cultivators at the second step in the Luotian star domain, making them eager to come here. It's the primordial power pit. The primordial power pit was discovered over 10,000 years ago within the Thunder Immortal realm. It was only a half-abandoned site when discovered by a cultivator who was on the verge of attaining the Tao. This cultivator practiced there, and his cultivation miraculously broke through the first step of cultivation, reaching the second step. For some unknown reason, this story spread quickly, driving all cultivators into a frenzy. As for how the primordial power pit was formed, no one knows. Even in the countless times the Thunder Immortal realm has been opened before, no one had ever noticed its existence. It seems as though the pit appeared out of nowhere. Within this pit exists a vast amount of heaven and earth energy. This energy is extraordinarily dense, so much so that it doesn't need to be refined. Even cultivators who haven't reached the second step can absorb it simply by breathing in and out. Such miracles, amid various speculations, have attracted countless cultivators to the Thunder Immortal realm. Apart from the primordial power pit, there is another kind of magical artifact referred to by second-step cultivators of the Thunder Immortal realm as the primordial artifact. The power within this artifact is different from that of immortal jade. It is a unique force. When a first-step cultivator absorbs it, immortal power is generated in their body. But when a second-step cultivator absorbs it, primordial energy is produced. All of these factors are what have truly drawn Wang in. He has also wondered why such things were never heard of in the Reign Immortal realm of the Alliance star domain, let alone seen. He just couldn't find an answer, but he vaguely suspected that the Reign Immortal realm might be smaller compared to the Thunder Immortal realm. Although it could have been severely shattered, causing many areas to collapse, it's also possible that the Reign Immortal realm was intentionally tampered with, rendering it incomplete, or perhaps it has not been fully opened. My cultivation is still not enough. Wang Lin sighed inwardly. He turned into a streak of lightning, about to leave, but at that moment, the strands of primordial power on the ground suddenly collapsed and disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin paused, his gaze fixed on the scene. In the depths of the completely collapsed ground, a faint immortal chi fluctuation began to emanate. Half of a grayish-white curved handle slowly emerged from the mud. The immortal chi fluctuation was emanating from this object. On a fragment continent within the Thunder Immortal realm, an elderly man with white hair stood with his hands behind his back, staring at a towering mountain peak that reached the clouds. He licked his lips, about to walk forward, but suddenly paused, as if sensing something. He smiled and said, "This little fellow is being clever. If not for this, he wouldn't be able to make it out in 7 days. But no matter, since you want to be the fated one of this old man, I'll let you have your way. However, the matter at hand is more important. I have spent tens of thousands of years gathering materials for this. It's finally time for success. Once I collect the immortal mountain soul and set up the Luo Heaven Grand Formation, I will come for you." Excitement glinted in his eyes. With his composure, there were few things in this world that could excite him so much. If anything could, it was the massive and terrifying plan he had been preparing for tens of thousands of years. The old man laughed heartily, stepping forward into the void, heading straight for the towering mountain peak. "I will be the first in the Luotian star domain to complete this plan. Once it is done, I will sweep across the Alliance star domain, and that damned Zhong Xuanzi will have no place to die." Meanwhile, Wang Lin's body slowly descended. With a grasp, he pulled the handle from the earth. The object was incomplete, resembling part of a water kettle. His eyes flickered as he glanced at the ground. He could vaguely sense several other fluctuations deep within. Why didn't I notice before? Why only after the collapse did I feel the immortal chi fluctuations? Wang Lin pondered as he stared at the object. At that moment, a long rainbow suddenly streaked across the distant sky, cutting through the air. The rainbow was black, seemingly carrying a thick aura of demonic energy. In an instant, it seemed to have sensed something and abruptly changed direction, heading straight for Wang Lin. Within the demonic energy, there was a blatant murderous intent and a domineering power. Young one ahead, leave what you hold and get out of my way. Those who disobey, die. It was as though even the thin clouds in the sky were corroded by this demonic flame, becoming filled with demonic energy. Under the raging winds, a slight gathering of the clouds could cause maddening raindrops to fall. With a hint of scalding rainwater, the droplets howled as they descended, the surrounding area instantly becoming engulfed in a sea of demonic energy. From a great distance, one could see in the air above, an enormous illusory figure with a single horn growing from its head, formed entirely from endless demonic energy. Above this illusory figure's head stood a young man in a purple robe, his eyes glowing with a bloodthirsty light. His black hair fluttered with the wind as he stood upon the figure, heading straight for the ground. Wang Lin stood on the earth, calmly looking up at the sky. He flipped his right hand, and the broken handle immediately disappeared into his storage pouch. As the demonic figure drew closer, the young man atop it looked down at Wang Lin and coldly spoke, seeking death. Without moving his body, the rainwater around him suddenly condensed and shot forward, forming an arrow made of water that pierced through layers of rain. With an eerie whistle, it sent rippling shockwaves towards Wang Lin. This young man's cultivation had reached the Yin deficiency realm, clearly not a novice, though he wasn't at the peak. He was somewhere in the middle stages, his cultivation comparable to that of the Thunder Taoist from years ago. Combined with his mastery of demonic arts, his powers were even more terrifying. Even Thunder Taoist would find it difficult to gain the upper hand. The water arrow contained an intense murderous aura. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with cold light, and he retreated several steps. He stretched out his right hand, and instantly, thunder rumbled, causing several thunderbolts to appear, connecting together to form thunder spheres. At a signal, the thunderbolts surged forward, crashing into the water arrow. As they neared, the thunderbolts exploded, sending a deafening roar and a violent wave of energy, which shattered the arrow, dispersing the water into the air, vanishing 10 feet away from Wang Lin. Interesting. The young man atop the demonic figure remained unfazed and spoke slowly. However, before he could finish, Wang Lin did not retreat. Instead, he stepped forward. He had just been trapped in the passage and harbored a growing anger. Now, encountering this young man who attacked without provocation, it felt as though to everyone around, he was nothing but a punching bag, someone everyone could trample on. It seems I've been too low profile in this Luotian star domain. Had the young man been at the Yang fulfillment realm, Wang Lin might have hesitated and considered retreating. But now, facing a Yin deficiency cultivator, one whom he had killed before, he stepped forward, charging straight toward the illusory figure. To use demonic attacks in front of me. I've battled rogue demons before. Wang Lin stepped onto the void and, with his right hand raised, his essence spirit began to move rapidly. Thunder might spread across his body, and in a loud rumble, bolts of lightning surged, rapidly condensing onto Wang Lin's right hand. A blue thunderball appeared suddenly, its energy so powerful that it immediately caused the surrounding environment to shift. This was the Thunder Immortal realm, a place rich in thunder energy. The moment Wang Lin summoned the thunderball, lightning arcs began to race across the ground, and even the sky seemed to be pulled toward it, turning into fine strands of lightning, all converging toward him. Gripping the thunderball, Wang Lin wasted no time. With a leap, he pushed forward. The thunderball howled as it sped toward the demonic figure's young man. The young man's expression shifted slightly, his murderous intent intensifying. He clasped his hands into a seal and, as the thunderball neared, he barked, "Devour, demon." The demonic figure under him, once chaotic in appearance, suddenly revealed two bloodthirsty demonic lights. In an instant, a crack appeared on its body, growing larger, resembling the mouth of a demon. It opened wide and swallowed the approaching thunderball, drawing it in completely. This weak thunder doesn't even qualify to make me unleash my demonic flames. The young man raised his right hand, and immediately, all the surrounding rainwater began to condense, swirling in his hand. In an instant, a long spear formed from the water, but it was infused with a dark, ink-like substance. The spear was entirely black, flowing with pitch-black energy. The young man swung it, and a water screen appeared in an instant, filled with dense demonic energy, heading straight for Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he slapped his storage pouch. Immediately, something appeared in his hand, the Immortal World Mountain Stone. He held the stone, and it rapidly expanded, quickly transforming into a massive boulder. At the moment the water curtain approached, Wang Lin pressed his right hand onto the stone, his eyes gleaming with an unusual light. As he lifted his hand, the soul of the mountain stone was gradually drawn out, swirling and merging together like strands of silk. When Wang Lin fully raised his hand, the immortal mountain soul formed a mist-like mass in his palm, exuding an aura of ancient, weathered energy. Wang Lin moved like lightning, so fast that the sound of thunder echoed the instant he moved. With the mist mass in his hand, he charged forward, and the water curtain enveloped him. The moment it entered his body, it transformed into countless cold demonic energies, surrounding him like a massive water drop. However, as the mist mass was released, it immediately emitted a powerful fluctuation of immortal chi. In an instant, it allowed Wang Lin to break through the water curtain, stepping forward without pause. He pushed the mist mass forward, which formed an arc and shot directly at the young man above the demonic shadow. As soon as the mist appeared, the young man's face darkened. He swung his spear, and it immediately flickered like a black dragon, charging forward with a deafening roar, aiming to pierce through the mist ball. Scatter! Wang Lin did not hesitate after pushing the mist ball, shouting as he charged forward. The mist ball instantly dispersed, swelling to several times its size, enveloping the black dragon formed by the spear. The young man's expression changed as he was about to use a divine technique. Just then, Wang Lin's eyes flashed coldly, and he shouted, "Thunder, explode!" The thunderball that had been swallowed by the demonic shadow earlier was not destroyed but remained hidden. At Wang Lin's command, it immediately erupted into a fierce thunder might, exploding within the demonic shadow's body. The black demonic shadow burst into a brilliant blue light, which intensified rapidly, reaching its peak in an instant. With a series of thunderous booms, the shadow's massive, illusory body collapsed completely. The sudden change made the young man's face grow even darker. Just as the demonic shadow was about to collapse, his body retreated, but at the same moment, Wang Lin was closing in. The shadow behind him shifted, and the immortal guard puppet swiftly stepped out. To the young man, it looked as though Wang Lin had split into two. As the immortal guard puppet stepped out, golden light flashed across its body, flowing like water to its right hand, which now seemed to hold the sun itself. A single punch, boom. Having reached the peak of the Ascendancy realm, it was no longer easy for the young man to discern the presence of the immortal guard puppet within Wang Lin. The entire sequence happened in such a short time that the young man had no chance to react. He never expected that a mere cultivator at the Ascendancy realm could wield such a thunderball, extract the soul of the mountain stone, and most shockingly, summon a puppet to land such a devastating punch. The storm created by that punch was too powerful. The golden light on it was blinding, and even the young man's essence spirit seemed to feel a sharp pain under its radiance. The punch was the pinnacle of the immortal guard puppet's power, and it struck with an impossible speed, aiming to shatter the heavens and the earth. The young man had no time to react to the rapid changes from the slow combat to the sudden attack. A long-forgotten sense of life or death danger surged in his heart. His face changed dramatically, and without hesitation, he retreated at full speed. The punch made his scalp tingle with fear. He sensed that if he didn't retreat and took the punch, even with his deficiency cultivation, he would undoubtedly die. As he retreated, the immortal guard puppet's punch exploded, and the young man, without hesitation, bit his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood, infused with the energy of heaven and earth. His face twisted with fury, and he roared, "Eastern Veil." The essence blood splashed like water into boiling oil, releasing a violent sizzling sound. It quickly transformed into a blood mist, which rapidly condensed in front of the young man, attempting to block the puppet's punch. The punch struck the blood mist with a deafening crash that reverberated across the entire fragment continent. The sound was so immense that the shockwave spread outward like a tidal wave, lifting the earth several feet and scattering fragments of magical artifacts infused with immortal energy. As the blood mist dissipated, the immortal guard puppet was forced to retreat, falling back several feet before stabilizing itself. However, all its golden light had vanished, and even its spirit seemed to be completely drained. The immortal guard puppet's body visibly trembled, as if drained of energy. Looking at the young man who was coming with murderous intent, his body shot out like a meteor, crashing onto the ground with a deafening roar. From the dust, a black illusory lotus appeared, emitting a thick demonic flame, hovering above him. After 5,000 years, you are the first one who has made me, Su Fenghan. However, before he could finish his words, a series of muffled sounds came from the mist within the mountain soul. Suddenly, there was a loud, echoing crash. The mist dispersed, transforming into fine threads that returned to the mountain stone. As for the ink dragon within, it had now turned into a puddle of lifeless rainwater, vanishing as it fell to the ground. From the dust, his tall figure emerged. His face was pale and disheveled, his eyes glowing with intense cold light, filled with a murderous frenzy. "You're good. Very good." The chilling voice came through gritted teeth. Being cornered by a first-step cultivator like this was a humiliation. At this moment, he had completely forgotten that he had come here for the fragments of magical artifacts in the deep pit. Now, his only thought was to kill his opponent. Wang Lin sighed inwardly. With his cultivation, killing a second-step cultivator was no easy feat. All his previous attacks, in the series of blows, were to give the immortal guard a chance to strike. If it had been any other first-step cultivator, they would not have been able to withstand such a barrage. But facing an Yin deficiency cultivator who hadn't truly reached the second step, Wang Lin could only injure him, not destroy him. This person is even stronger than Thunder Taoist was back in the day. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and the fragments of magical artifacts that were exposed in the dirt immediately flew up and into his storage pouch. His gaze remained fixed on the eerie demonic flame lotus hovering above Su Fenghan's head. Su Fenghan took a deep breath, raised his right hand, and pointed to the sky, his voice cold and threatening. "Even if you have that puppet, even if you have countless magical artifacts, under the demonic lotus formed by my Tao concept in the Yin deficiency realm, everything will be reduced to ashes." Tao transformation demonic lotus, first turn. As Su Fenghan spoke, the demonic lotus in the air, radiating fierce flames, slowly began to turn. With that single motion, the demonic flames became even more intense, as if it painted the entire sky in black demonic light. Wang Lin's expression grew solemn. It was rare for him to witness a cultivator with Tao concept materialized, and just one turn of the demonic lotus seemed to replace heaven and earth itself. With its rotation, it felt as though the entire universe was turning. This sensation was illusory, yet overwhelmingly real. It was as if he had become a speck of dust in the vast cosmos, and with the turning of the universe, his existence was about to be ruthlessly erased. "I can't let it turn again." Wang Lin's face turned ashen. In an instant, his mind raced, and he was reflected by the demonic lotus, which had turned the sky above him into an ominous black. Thunder rumbled, and a booming sound echoed across the heavens. Suddenly, a yellow spring appeared in the air. This yellow spring stretched long, resembling a great river in the sky. Faint but chilling resentment and howls echoed from it, and in that moment, it felt as if the entire world was suffused with endless grudge. The yellow spring squeezed into the surrounding demonic lotus, forming a counterforce. At this moment, the feeling of the turning universe began to fade. Wang Lin's eyes sharpened with a grave look. Cultivators who could materialize their Tao concept were terrifying. Wang Lin understood this all too well. Su Fenghan's eyes narrowed as he gazed at the yellow spring in midair. Slowly, he said, "So, you too possess the ability to materialize your Tao concept. You can draw the mountain stone soul, and with so many magical artifacts, if I'm not mistaken, you must also be a second-step cultivator. However, due to some mishap, your cultivation has fallen, and you have only reached the peak of first step." Only this explanation made sense to Su Fenghan. Otherwise, he couldn't fathom how a first-step cultivator could be so powerful. That puppet must be your true body, and this current form of yours is just a clone. You've been severely injured, so your essence spirit cannot return to your true body. The more Su Fenghan spoke, the clearer his mind became. His confidence in his guess only grew. Let's see whose Tao concept is stronger. A flash of murderous intent appeared in Su Fenghan's eyes. The lotus above his head immediately began to spin again. This time, the rotation was faster, and the demonic flames grew even more ferocious. As the lotus spun, a massive demonic flame vortex formed, black and ominous, releasing a scorching heat that dried the mouth and throat. "Demonic flames, burn!" Su Fenghan shouted. The demonic flame vortex surged, rising from the lotus and heading straight for Wang Lin below. The vortex spun rapidly, whipping up fierce winds. These winds carried intense heat, forming a storm that screamed as it charged toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with resolve. This battle was his first life-and-death struggle since reaching the peak of the Great Destiny. As the demonic flames of Su Fenghan's Tao concept approached, Wang Lin raised his right hand and said in a deep voice, "Second move, gather the spring soul." The yellow spring in the sky trembled violently, and the resentment within it surged wildly, condensing at this moment. This resentment was overwhelming, formed from the collective resentment of all the mortal beings in Azure Spirit Star, gathered by Wang Lin. These scattered grievances merged with one another, creating an immense wave of resentment between heaven and earth. The resentment turned into a tangible form, spilling out from the yellow spring and manifesting as countless illusory figures. Each of these figures was a mortal soul, transformed by resentment. In the blink of an eye, innumerable mortal phantoms appeared, densely filling the space between heaven and earth. It seemed as though the entire world had become smaller, extremely cramped. But soon, these mortal phantoms of resentment fused together, and in an instant, all the phantoms merged into a single vengeful soul, one with a human shape but lacking distinct facial features. Born from the yellow spring, this vengeful soul immediately triggered a violent tremor in the yellow spring. It surrounded the soul, heading toward the storm of demonic flames. The collision of the yellow spring's vengeful soul and the demonic flame vortex produced an unimaginable force. In an instant, a ripping sound echoed, excruciatingly sharp, and it came from the sky. The entire sky seemed to be torn apart by this force. The ground trembled violently under the impact of this power. A crack appeared between Wang Lin and Su Fenghan, rapidly expanding, as if the entire continent were being split in two. The vengeful soul dissipated, once again turning into countless wisps of resentment, returning to the yellow spring. The yellow spring was collapsing. The yellow spring symbolized the Tao concept. Its collapse was the collapse of the Tao concept itself. Wang Lin's essence spirit was linked to it, causing his face to turn pale as he staggered back several steps. A wave of demonic flames, connected in a strange way, passed from the vengeful soul to the yellow spring, and in the moment of the yellow spring's collapse, it reached Wang Lin's essence spirit. These demonic flames burned as if they intended to turn everything in the world to ash. Wang Lin's pale face flushed slightly as he spat a large mouthful of blood, his entire being instantly radiating an intense murderous aura. Third move, yellow spring power. Wang Lin suddenly raised his head, staring at the yellow spring in the sky as it collapsed, his unwavering will shining through his eyes. He would never submit. If the Tao concept collapses, he would condense it anew. If the yellow spring collapses, he would condense it again. The demonic flames entering his body were forced out of his sweat pores at this moment, invisible at first, but quickly igniting into black smoke rising into the sky. Su Fenghan's face also turned pale as he took a few steps back. Above him, the Tao-transformed demonic lotus shook. Although it didn't collapse, the demonic flames on it seemed to be extinguished by heavenly water, flickering out in most of it. Even he was affected by the resentment of the yellow spring. His mind was overwhelmed by a torrent of chaotic thoughts. Thankfully, his profound cultivation allowed him to suppress it several times, stabilizing his mind. Otherwise, if the resentment in his mind continued to increase, he would lose his sanity before his opponent even made a move. The Tao battle is indeed the most dangerous. That much is true. For the first time, Su Fenghan internally placed Wang Lin on equal footing with himself. The Tao battle often shakes the foundation of a cultivator. It is not the essence spirit, nor the physical body, but the intangible Tao will. Once the Tao will is damaged, the consequences are dire, because it is incredibly difficult to recover. Su Fenghan, seeing the yellow spring on the brink of collapse, was shocked. But at this moment, a powerful, unyielding will, one that even he could feel, held it up, reversing its collapse and causing it to condense once more. This scene took him by surprise, his eyes flashing with astonishment. He had never seen such a Tao technique before. At this moment, he knew he could not retreat. This was a Tao battle, and if he retreated, the consequences would be severe. He quickly formed a hand seal and shouted, "Demonic Lotus, 100 turns." The lotus flower trembled and began to spin. Once again, the sensation of heaven and earth turning followed. This feeling was terrifyingly real. Wang Lin's body was involuntarily pushed back. He didn't want to retreat, but at that moment, heaven and earth were spinning. If he didn't retreat, it felt as though he would be obliterated. I've killed Yin deficiency cultivators before. Killing another is not impossible. Wang Lin stamped his right foot, stopping abruptly. The unyielding will in his eyes pierced through and reached the yellow spring in the sky. Where his thoughts went, confidence followed. This unyielding spirit and faith combined, preventing the yellow spring from collapsing and instead causing it to emit a massive force of attraction, yellow spring power. This force was so great it seemed as though it would pull heaven and earth into the yellow spring. No matter how much the lotus turned, this transcendent pull born from the intersection of two star domains could not escape. The force was so powerful that it even slowed the rotating lotus down. It felt as though the lotus was trapped in water, its spinning becoming sluggish. This change caused Su Fenghan's expression to shift dramatically. Without hesitation, he leaped up, intending to sit cross-legged on the lotus to rotate it with his own strength and keep the dowel flowing. But Wang Lin would not give him such an opportunity. He surged forward, and under the pull of the yellow spring power, he pointed his right hand to the sky. His eyes gleamed with murderous intent as he shouted, "Karmic Lash!" In an instant, a curved, fine line appeared at the center of Wang Lin's brow. It shimmered and transformed, suddenly becoming a long whip. The moment the whip emerged, it gave a sharp twitch, cracking through the air with a loud snap. Waves of invisible force rippled outward. Though the whip seemed intangible, it lashed across the void, striking directly at Su Fenghan as he rushed toward the lotus. Though it struck only empty space, Su Fenghan shuddered. His body froze midair, his face turning pale. The karmic lash, it strikes at karma itself. This man's Tao heart has a flaw. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Without hesitation, he lunged forward. Su Fenghan's steps faltered, his Tao concept became unstable. He could not comprehend what kind of whip this was, nor why it wielded such terrifying, unimaginable power. In that moment of hesitation, Wang Lin charged forth not towards Su Fenghan, but directly onto the lotus flower formed from Su Fenghan's Tao concept in midair, seizing another's nest as his own. At that instant, Wang Lin's black hair danced without wind, his robe snapped loudly in the air. Though his face was pale, an extraordinary aura radiated from him. Standing atop the demonic lotus conjured from Su Fenghan's Tao, Wang Lin turned around. His eyes burned like torches, fixed on Su Fenghan. To stand on the lotus was to stand on Su Fenghan's very Tao concept. Though not an actual attack, the symbolic weight of it was staggering, an unmatched psychological blow that struck directly at the spirit. Su Fenghan had only just forced down the chaos in his mind when he saw Wang Lin standing on the Tao-shaped lotus. His Tao heart, already loosened, cracked further. His face turned deathly pale. Wang Lin said nothing. His eyes locked on Su Fenghan as he flicked his robe and sat cross-legged right where he stood. At that moment, the power of the netherworld surged more violently than ever. Drawn forth, it swept around the lotus in an instant. The Tao battle was lost. Su Fenghan's expression turned ashen. He spat out a mouthful of blood and gave a bitter laugh. Without hesitation, he retreated. At the same time, he formed a hand seal. Heaven and earth energy within him surged forth, condensing between his hands. I still have the primordial power, divine ability, primordial transformed demonic god. Su Fenghan's face twisted with hatred. He now loathed this nameless enemy to the very core. Between his hands, primordial energy gathered in an instant. A burst of black demonic flame flared into existence, wavering like a candle, flickering wildly. Within the heart of the flame, a soul-devouring demon creature struggled and writhed. The demonic flame swelled in a flash, as if it had absorbed enough primordial energy. It expanded furiously, spewing thick black smoke. In midair, it transformed into a one-horned demonic beast. The creature bore a striking resemblance to a rogue demon, though lacking its overwhelming might. A thick sense of danger surged in Wang Lin's heart. He slapped the lotus beneath him, propelling his body into the air. His left hand pressed to his brow as he shot toward the demon. His speed was astounding. As he neared, the third eye crack at his brow suddenly opened, unleashing a blinding red light, not dispersing outward, but condensing inward, making his presence eerie and otherworldly. The demon roared the moment it appeared. It spun and clamped its jaws around Su Fenghan's shoulder. With a savage jerk, it lifted him and swallowed him whole. After devouring him, the demon suddenly turned. Its fiendish eyes locked onto Wang Lin. With a ferocious roar, it charged, its massive claws swiping forward with such force that they seemed to tear the heavens apart, emitting a piercing screech. In that instant, veins bulged on Wang Lin's face. His third eye widened fully. The red light burst forth in a fan shape. The demon was instantly caught in the arc of red radiance. It began to turn translucent. Even Su Fenghan, curled in a fetal position within its belly, became clearly visible. As the demon's claw slashed toward him, Wang Lin thrust his right hand forward and shouted, "Freeze!" Immobilization divine art, a vast force descended, compressing the very fabric of heaven and earth. The demon froze for a heartbeat. Though it quickly broke free, that brief moment gave Wang Lin a golden opportunity. Now fully enveloped in the red light, the demon's body began to emit thick black smoke. Agonized howls erupted from its throat. It writhed in madness, even as Su Fenghan, who had seemed asleep within, suddenly opened his eyes. Wang Lin's face was pale. He could not sustain the third eye's red light for long. It devoured his energy at an alarming rate. After 2 breaths, the third eye closed, and the red light vanished. But in that fleeting moment, Wang Lin slapped his storage pouch, and an immortal sword appeared in his hand. He raised the sword and brought it down in a flash. Severing nether technique. The heavens rumbled, and a loud roar echoed. As the sword fell, it was as though the very fabric of the world was torn asunder. The strike was not against the body, nor the primordial energy, but against the very rules of heaven and earth. Once the rules were severed, the divine powers collapsed. With that single stroke, Su Ligua's influence was brought to bear. The dense sword chi, imbued with the sword intent from ancient times, spread across the sky and earth. As the immortal sword descended, the demon creature's body remained unscathed. Even Su Fenghan within its abdomen merely blinked, yet both he and the demon were frozen in place at that moment. Moments later, cracks appeared on the demon's body, and streams of demonic energy poured out, vanishing into the void. Once the demonic energy dissipated, Su Fenghan was revealed within. At this moment, Su Fenghan had already lost all vitality. A trace of blood trickled from the corner of Wang Lin's mouth. Killing a Yin deficiency cultivator was no easy feat. Wang Lin sheathed his immortal sword and reached out to the deep pit in the distance. He immediately gathered all the broken pieces of magical artifacts inside, and with a swift motion, he vanished, quickly retreating. As for the demonic lotus from the netherworld, it did not dissipate as expected. Instead, it was drawn into the power of the netherworld, beginning to undergo the process of Tao concept refinement. Noticing this, a thoughtful look appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. Could the materialized objects of Tao concept be used to forge a magical artifact? As Wang Lin flew, his divine sense spread out. This battlefield would surely attract some cultivators, so he prudently increased his speed. He did not stop until he was tens of thousands of miles away from the site of the battle. This fragment continent was vast, far more stable than the Renegade Immortal world. Had this battle occurred in the Renegade Immortal world, it would have caused the continent to collapse. Wang Lin flew for 3 days before finally reaching the edge. Only then did he stop, scanning the ground. In the distance, he saw a mountain peak with thunder radiance flickering across it. With a flash, Wang Lin headed straight for the mountain. Inside, he carved out a cave using his immortal sword, entered, and sat cross-legged to meditate and regulate his breathing. The battle with Su Fenghan had caused a depletion of his primordial energy, though he had consumed 2 half-immortal thunders earlier without refining them, instead storing them within his body. Now, he used this opportunity to refine them, slowly replenishing the energy lost from his primordial spirit. Moreover, this place was the Thunder Immortal realm, where every plant, stone, and mountain contained the power of thunder. Cultivating here was like being in a sacred land, much faster than in the outside world. It felt as though he was a fish in water. While cultivating, Wang Lin took out the demonic lotus from the Tao transformation netherworld. The lotus was dim and lacked its previous glow. Once outside the netherworld, it immediately began to show signs of fading. After observing for a moment, Wang Lin placed it back into the Tao concept netherworld. Next, he retrieved all the broken magical artifact pieces from the deep pit of the passage. From these fragments, he deduced that it was likely a water bottle-like artifact. The fluctuations of immortal power on it were strange, seemingly a mix of immortal chi, but with something else that was quite peculiar. Staring at the fragments, Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with contemplation. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed as he focused on the fragments, murmuring, "Could this be a broken primordial artifact?" At this moment, within the Luotian star domain, a blood-red rainbow streaked across the sky at an astonishing speed. At the end of this rainbow was a dark red planet. This planet was large and emitted an eerie aura, one that was impossible to describe. Was it immortal chi, demonic chi, or something else entirely? It was all very strange. The planet was not stationary, but slowly moved. The blood-red rainbow stopped outside the planet. Once the light faded, a figure appeared. This person had red hair, red eyebrows, and wore a red robe. He was handsome, appearing to be around 40 years old. He gazed at the surrounding starry sky and the dark red planet ahead, a hint of nostalgic melancholy in his eyes. After a while, he clasped his fists and, In a tone of utmost respect, slowly spoke, Yao Kong, son of Yao Luodong, has returned to his roots. The surroundings were quiet. After a long pause, a raspy voice suddenly echoed from the dark red planet. Didn't your father say when he left the family that from now on, for generations, there would be no turning back? Yao Kong sighed inwardly. If it were not for an absolute necessity, he really did not want to return to the Luotian star domain, nor did he wish to use the Luotian stone that his father left him before his death. However, without returning to the Luotian star domain, he could not find peace. Everything he did was for his daughter, Yao Shishiwei. This person was none other than the blood ancestor. He had just spoken when the raspy voice interrupted him. Leave here. Go back to the Alliance star domain your father chose. There is no Yao Luodong in the Yu family's ancestral hall. The tone carried a resolute and unyielding attitude, not allowing for any argument or resistance. Grandfather, my only daughter, Yao Shishiwei, has been captured from the Alliance star domain, and her life or death is unknown. Her fate is hanging by a thread. She is the bloodline of the Yao family. The blood ancestor clenched his fists, his voice heavy with anger. The hoarse voice fell into silence for a moment, and after a long while, a deep sigh echoed. Yao Shishiwei. The voice was faint, and after a brief pause, it slowly continued. I've calculated that she is in the Thunder Immortal realm. Go and bring back my great-granddaughter. The Thunder Immortal realm has already opened. Take my token and go to the Thunder Immortal Palace. Have them send you in. If you are late, even they will be unable to help you enter.